Perhaps no president has been more a part of the land over which they presided than Theodore Roosevelt. From the over 230 million acres of public land he protected, to the granite mountainside that bears his face, right down to his pince-nez glasses. His rugged, no-nonsense, larger-than-life, big-stick persona roused the patriotic sentiment of millions during his own time and continues to do so today. But our story today doesn't begin with his affluent, asthmatic youth or even his corruption-fighting days in New York. It begins in 1896 when William McKinley defeated Williams Jennings Bryan in the election for President of the United States. Within months, McKinley appoints a 37-year-old New York City police commissioner to the Assistant Secretary of the Navy. That man is Theodore Roosevelt. As an appointee, TR was not without his merits. He was a published author and historian who had already lived a series of political appointments and offices, interspersed with periods of frontier life and ranching in North Dakota. Roosevelt seemed to bring with him the disruption of reform wherever he went. A veritable bull in a china shop, his strong moral compass and unwavering commitment earned him the respect of friend and foe alike. At the time of TR's appointment to the Navy, he believed in two things: a strong Navy and getting Spain out of Cuba, and he took steps towards both. In Roosevelt's mind, Cuban independence was critical to the defense of America's shores, as it would finally remove a perilously close European influence. The granting of Cuban freedom and the relief from their humanitarian crises were important but secondary benefits. He was already pushing strongly for his version of national security upon his appointment, but on February 15, 1898, Roosevelt's preparation seemed more like prophecy, when the USS Maine exploded and sank in the Havana harbor, taking with her 268 souls, roughly 3/4 of her crew. Even prior to the tragedy of the Maine, Roosevelt was one of many who endorsed war with Spain for atrocities against the Cubans as well as for national security. He left no mystery as to his opinions. In a letter to his friend Brooks Adams, Roosevelt wrote, "The blood of the Cubans, the blood of women and children who have perished by the 100,000s in hideous misery, lies at our door. And the blood of the murdered men of the Maine calls not for indemnity, but for the full measure of atonement, which can only come by driving the Spaniard from the New World." While President McKinley was calling for cool heads and cautious tongues, Roosevelt and his gung-ho bravado were itching to fight the Spaniards. He wasted little time in circumventing Secretary of Navy John D. Long and ordered the Navy to begin buying new ships and preparing existing ships for war. On April 20th, when war was formally declared against Spain, Roosevelt was offered command of a regiment by Secretary of War Russell Alger. Roosevelt immediately demurred, citing his own lack of experience, but promised to serve as a second-in-command lieutenant colonel if his experienced colleague Leonard Wood would serve at colonel. All three men agreed. The 1st United States Volunteer Cavalry was to be one of 3 such cowboy regiments formed by McKinley, composed of rough and ready men from all ilks of life: cowboys, educated East Coasters, athletes, farmhands, boxers, lawmen, Native Americans, outdoorsmen, veterans, and so on, a veritable microcosm of the melting pot country for which they fought, united in their cause and patriotism. In Roosevelt's own words, "All, Easterners and Westerners, Northerners and Southerners, officers and men, cowboys and college graduates, wherever they came from and whatever their social position, possessed in common the traits of hardihood and a thirst for adventure. They were to a man born adventurers." On May 6th, according to TR's own journal, he was sworn in as Lieutenant Colonel for the 1st U.S. Volunteer Cavalry, a group that would capture the attention of a nation and become known as the Rough Riders. The romance of the West and the cowboy were already alive and well at the turn of the 19th century, and Americans were enthralled to see their rugged heroes pitted against a new, dangerous, and exciting foe. It was a group comprised of everyday men, now thrust into the spotlight of national celebrity. Roosevelt wouldn't leave for San Antonio to join the Rough Riders until May 12, 1898. Until then, he was forced to make equipment arrangements and help usher in the Navy's new Assistant Secretary. However, May 12th was important for another reason as well. This very special Smith & Wesson revolver, serial number 32661, was shipped from the Smith & Wesson factory to Lieutenant Colonel Roosevelt. With its 6.5-inch barrel and hand-checkered walnut grips, this new model number 3 was almost certainly ordered soon after the declaration of war against Spain. Because while the new model number 3 was offered in many calibers, 38 Long Colt was one scarcely seen. It said perhaps 3 or 4 are in existence. However, 38 Long Colt was the standard U.S. service cartridge at the time, and together with its unusual fixed combat target sights, would seem to indicate that it was ordered by a man who fully expected to use it in military service, but not without his own personal flair. TR's new model number 3 comes with wonderful and tasteful Smith & Wesson factory engraving with its tight, circular pattern undoubtedly engraved by a member of the Young family, perhaps even Gustav Young himself. Of course, while this revolver, by all indicators, was ordered to fight in Cuba, that honor for Roosevelt would go to a .38 caliber Colt double-action revolver salvaged from the wreckage of the USS Maine and presented to him by his brother-in-law, William Cowles. It is the reason this national treasure, Smith & Wesson, survives in such phenomenal condition today. It remains a crown jewel in fine arms collecting, an extraordinary piece of military history, and an artifact of an American hero and president. The exploits, accomplishments, and adventures of Theodore Roosevelt are too numerous, too rich, too bully to recount in a single video. A governorship, a presidency, the Nobel Prize, the Panama Canal, and a Medal of Honor are only a sliver of his storied life. But for all his deeds, in all his years, from early life in New York to fighting in Cuba, the Oval Office, hunting in Africa with his son Kermit, or braving the Amazon River, TR recalled one of those moments above all else. He minced no words when he said, "San Juan was the great day in my life." When Theodore Roosevelt left his home to join the Rough Riders, so did this revolver. It was the sidearm of a man who spectacularly embodied the spirit of a nation. A man of bravado, courage, conviction, honor, determination, character, and a legacy that still blazes brightly, right here at Rock Island Auction Company.